Yeah. As far as exercise, the question was asked yesterday. So yeah, the Shmer Shabbos also brings it down that even though you're not allowed to exercise for refuah, that means if you are doing it to sweat, but if you're doing it for pleasure, that it's allowed. So in practice, I would not recommend a person do it in public. I don't think it sets the tone for Shabbos, like people jogging and lifting weights in a public way. It just doesn't look.
Lifting weights is not muktzah?
No.
No?
Why is it muktzah?
I asked the rabbi about it, and he said the refuah part, as long as it's not for refuah, it's for enjoyment. And then he said, but lifting weights is not such. And I asked, what's the issue with weights? Is it, or is it, so exactly what he said, or is it, and maybe I thought maybe you're intending to break the muscle, maybe you're talking breaking the muscle.
Right.
What a person looks at.
Break the muscle? I mean, you're in trouble if you're breaking a muscle.
Well, that's what a weight
No,
does.
you're
It
carrying
tears
your
the
muscle.
muscle and rebuild. That's the whole.
Yeah, that's internal. That's not the.
So he wrote, he said both the weights are muktzah, and also because it's clear that the intention is for refuah and not for pleasure.
What does that mean? If that's the way you work out. Why is that more? Are there less pleasure than push-ups or sit-ups or anything else? Anyway, I don't.
Push-ups and sit-ups wouldn't be your second would be an issue, but not be an issue.
Why not? If that's how you work out. I mean, anytime you work out, it's clear you're working out. I mean, nobody thinks when people do that stuff that they're doing it for, whatever. Nowadays, most of those exercises are for pleasure, not for refuah. And some people, maybe, the doctor.
Can refuah be to stay healthy? I know people who are workout maniacs. They work out every day, like an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym. And I'm assuming for them on Shabbat, they could work out if they would be allowed to. Right? But for other people who have extra weight, they're just doing it to stay healthy. That could be refuah. Yeah,
it's only for pleasure. If it's not for pleasure, then it shouldn't be. But even for pleasure, I would not say to do it in a public way. Not in a gym or not in a place that people can see, because it doesn't set the right tone. That's what it would seem. Okay. We are starting. Yes, there is a shir tonight. Oh, yes, he's here. Okay, sorry, we're starting late. Having computer trouble. In the Machaber, it is Siv Zayin, correct. But I just wanted to go over a few things that I did not mention yesterday that speaking of the Mishnah Berurah Dirshu, I was looking at it this morning. So first of all, he brings down that what we said yesterday about being able to prepare the clothes, being able to prepare the clothes. And he love in the Khalifa Makova. Say that. We'll see. Okay. The point is that some say the Eruv Tafshilin only works for food matters, and it actually doesn't work for other things.
For preparation for food, like setting the table.
Yeah.
That would work.
That too.
We're talking about the beds.
Yeah. We're talking about the beds and talking about preparing the parsha. If you want to roll the Sefer Torah from one place to another, so some places can actually forbid it because they say the Eruv Tafshilin is only for the purpose of food preparation.
Which is this?
He actually brings it down from the Alter Rebbe, which I didn't get a chance to look up, but he says that the Alter Rebbe says that it only works.
Who is this? The Mishnah Berurah?
No, this is in it's called the Dirshu Mishnah Berurah. They bring later. They bring other Achronim.
Oh, right.
So that's what he brings. Shulchan Aruch Harav. Erev Tafshilin ein matter lesaken tzorchei seudas Shabbos v'lo yeshar ha'achonos. So that's an interesting thing. Now, another point is that we said yesterday that according to the Eliyah Rabbah, you can only fold something that you were not able to fold before Shabbos, even if it's not on the creases, right? If you could have folded before Shabbos, you have to, presumably because otherwise it's like an extra tircha, and it's not right to spend time on Shabbos doing it. But he does bring that the Tzos HaShulchan says that you're allowed to, even if you could have done it before Shabbos. Again, you have to, can't be done in a way that you're doing it to prepare for the next day, but that is something interesting.
Does that go for washing dishes also? If there are some dishes in the sink that were dirty before Shabbos, you can't just wash them along with all your other dirty dishes?
No, you can't wash it specifically for the next day. But if it's in your way, if it bothers you, or certainly if you'll need them, you can wash them. Okay. Let us continue with Seif Zayin. Tit shal gabe bigdoi. Machaber. Tit shal gabe bigdoi. A mud that is on his garment. Meshafshafoi mibifnim. You can rub it from the inside. It does not clearly look like malabin. But not outside. To dummy the malabin, because then it looks like malabin. So this is how.
Like this.
Here, yeah. Give me a jacket if you don't mind for a minute. Forgot my jacket. So here's how I always understood it, and it's the simple pshat, but Rabbi Ribiat understands it differently. So normally you have a stain, let's say, right here, right? So normally you hold it on both sides. I mean, if you can't use water, and you rub it against itself like that, right? And that way, just the friction rubs out the pieces. Yeah? No. Loy bachutz. The normal way is like this. This is called bachutz. You're holding it on the outside towards the stain. But if you want to do it with the shinui, you hold it on the inside. You're holding it on the inside, and you're doing the same act. You're rubbing it, but you're holding it on the inside instead on the outside. So it's mamish the same exact thing. It's a shino. It's like a little kalach yad thing. Now, one second. Sorry. The way he understands it is totally different. What do you mean, rub it? Explain.
From the back of this thing.
Oh, so that's what he says. That's what Rabbi Ribiat says. Maybe it's the Pashup Pshat, I don't know. He says what you do is you don't rub the jacket against itself at all. You just go back and forth like that.
Yeah, that's what I thought I was saying.
So that it just kind of falls off from the movement of the back and forth movement. You're not actually rubbing it on the garment itself at all. That's Rabbi Ribiat. But honestly, I don't know if that's the pshat. And I'll tell you why not.
Stick in it.
I'll tell you why I don't think so in a minute. But first let's finish, and then I'll get back to why I'm not sure about it. As follows: Umegarda b'tziparan. You can also scratch it with your fingernail. Right. I mean, the fact is you are going to be scratching it out. And the Magen Avraham says that the same thing applies to a knife, even with the sharp edge of the knife. Now, one thing has to be pointed out, and this is important, that you cannot squeeze, if it's literally wet, you cannot squeeze any liquid from inside of the garment, right? That's schita. So we're talking about just scraping out what's on top. That's all you're doing. So you're doing it a little bit gently. Even with a knife, you have to do it gently. Now, if it's dry and you're just scraping out the particles, obviously that's not schita. but he's going to discuss dry things in a minute. Yesh meforshim dahani mili lach. Some say that this is only if it is moist mud.
Could do with the material, napkins, towels.
Yeah, dry. Only dry materials, not wet.
Should not just wipe.
Can't use a wipe, no. There's two issues. A regular, rag that's wet, there's going to be a schita issue from the rag to the beged. But secondly, even if you don't have that, let's say with the wipe, some say there's schita, some say not. But even besides that, you're using liquid to clean. You can never use liquid to clean. That's the rule number one in this whole simon, is that you can never use any liquid to clean. So the point is, if you crumble something dry, it's aser because, not something, if you crumble dry mud, then it's considered toichen, because you're taking one object and you're breaking it into many small pieces. Toichen does not only apply to grain, it applies to anything that has big pieces and you turn it into small pieces. For example, the Gemara says, if you make sawdust or even small wood chips, that's called toichen, taking something big and cutting it to small. We're going to learn in Shin Chaf Aleph that chopping up food very finely could be toichen, depending on the opinion.
Isn't that only with something organic, something that grows?
One second.
Second,
yes.
Step on a piece of dry mud and it's going to crash.
Yeah, but that's...
But they didn't make it.
Yeah, remember, this whole thing is derabanan, and there it's kalachayad, and it's not your intention, whatever. So that's...
To be toichen it, you want to clean. You want to remove it. You can say the same thing. It's not your intention. It doesn't mean anything to you.
Doesn't mean anything to you, but I don't know if it's not your intention. You don't need it.
Your intention is to remove it.
I understand, but that's how you're removing it. That's how you're removing it. I don't know. It's a psik ratio, let's put it that way. It's a psik ratio, for sure. If it's not a psik ratio, it would be mutter. The Mishnah Berurah actually says, if you could take off the dried mud without breaking it up, let's say you're just going to lift the whole thing off. You're going to use a knife, come under it, and lift the whole thing off. And he says you can.
If it's dry, let's say the second way you saw it on the jacket, you shake it up, tap on the thing down.
So what's the problem?
It fell to pieces. Came on.
I'm saying,
not in one
if
piece.
you could do it in one piece, then it should be mutter even if it doesn't come out in one piece, because it's not a psik ratio. You understand? The whole thing over here is a davar she'eino miskaven. You're talking not intending it. So if it's for sure going to happen, it's a psik ratio, then it's a problem. But if it's not for sure going to happen, it would seem to be mutter actually. So, Yossi, go ahead.
I was just asking, isn't it only with things that grow that you can't mince them or turn them into small pieces? So eggs and meat are not problematic, whereas potatoes and strawberries are.
That's about food. Food is only toichen if it grows, but non-food items could be toichen even if they don't grow. Strange.
All right. Why is that?
I don't know why. Now that I'm saying it, it is strange, but I don't know why. The Gemara definitely says that making sawdust is toichen, but in Shin
That grows. It comes from a tree.
no, I'm pretty sure that's not the reason. I'm pretty sure that's not the reason. I'm pretty sure that that's not the reason. Let's get Shin Chaf Aleph here. Din toilish b'Shabbos v'din toichen. Kol davar haroi la'achila, ve'ein gedulei karka, she'ein b'minei tchina, k'gon basem avushal. If it's roi la'achila, and it's not gedulei karka, then it's ein b'minei tchina. Okay, that's the key. If it's fit for eating, so then cutting it up is not considered toichen, because it's considered to be, you're just preparing food. You're cutting food up and you're making it into smaller pieces. However, if it grows from the
So you
ground,
can make steak tartare.
exactly. However, if it grows from the ground, so then, even though it's food, it's still a problem, because we see that Tchina and the Mishkan was things that grew from the ground, and even though they could be edible, like the menachas and so on, the wheat for the menachas, for the meal offerings, Tchina still applied. So therefore, by oichlin, it has to grow from the ground. But by other things, where it's not seen as you're just cutting up food for the purpose of eating, so then it doesn't have to grow from the ground. All right. The point is, he actually doesn't spell it out in Simcha Aleph, but I'm pretty sure that is correct, that if it's not a food item, it doesn't have to grow from the ground. Anyway, back to this. The Havitochen, because it is grinding. Okay. Now, it is worth pointing out that this is a Yesh Mefarshim, which is Rabbeinu Peretz, and not everybody agrees with this Rabbeinu Peretz. Rabbeinu Peretz says that this is a problem of Teichen, to grind, to remove dried mud in such a way that it's going to... He is the only one who says it. Like we said yesterday, when one person says something and others don't say it, and it's a chiddush, so even if we're going to paskin like it, it's still a chiddush. Understand? It's not pashut.
I think that doesn't mean that also this. If there's mamash of the mud, it shouldn't. But if it's
we're going to discuss the Taz. Yeah, we're going to discuss the Taz.
Even it's allowing to filling it with a nail.
We'll discuss the Taz in a minute. Yeah, but I mean Rishonim. The Achronim all discuss this. Talking about amongst the Rishonim, Rabbeinu Peretz is the only one who mentions this. So, and the Yalkut Yosef, if I'm not mistaken, is lenient about this. I must say I didn't get a chance to look it up today, but I'm pretty sure, based on what I remember, I don't have my Sfarim here. Sorry?
Nobody argue against it?
Clearly, no. They don't.
This means that the holding, what he's saying?
Lamaisa, the Achronim do paskin like him, but if I'm not mistaken, the Yalkut Yosef questions that and says that there's reason to be makel. He says a few things. First of all, sorry? Exactly. Because it is, certainly everybody agrees that it's only the Rabbanan, right? Because it's Malacha Shein Sechel Guf, right? You don't need the thing that you're crushing. Second of all, it's not a normal way. It's not a normal way to crush. It's like a kalachar yad kind of crushing as you're taking it off the beged. And he also brings some poskim that question this psak based on the concept of ein toichen achar toichen. There's no grinding after grinding. We know there's ein bishul achar bishul. There's ein blank after blank. You fill in the blanks. Ein lisha achar lisha. I'm sorry? Who said? Why?
Where was the first?
Oh, so the argument can be made that it was all mud was once particles of earth, and then they came together, and then you took it apart. So it's not real tchina. But the argument against that, obviously, Rabbeinu Peretz doesn't hold of that because he's clearly talking about dried mud. The argument against that is that ein tchina achar tchina only applies if you did a maisa of tchina, not the fact that it used to once be particles. If you once ground it doesn't have to be you, but if there was once an act to grind it, So then, even if it gets mushed together again, it's not significant to break it up again. But if it was never ground up actively, the fact that it used to be separate doesn't change that.
How did mud come to your jacket?
Because you slipped.
It's skipped. You step like that, and
So?
it's like you trina, and then it flashed to you.
Right.
Then it was trina.
No, it didn't come to you through trina. When it came to you, it was wet
Splash.
mud. It was wet. It wasn't pieces. It dried on your thing. When it came to you, it was wet. It was one gush.
And let's say if you drive the car driving and you walk in the sidewalk,
Yeah, it's splashed.
but
It's wet.
But the car the wheel is mushed that.
No. We didn't
It's
mush
so
it.
bad.
We didn't mush it. If it's wet mud, that means it was already wet when the car passed by, pushed it onto you.
You're saying it's coming one gush.
Yeah, wet mud is all connected. He didn't throw on you little pieces.
It's not flying by itself. By its,
He didn't
you have
throw.
to push it to schlag it
China
out.
means to take one piece and break it into little pieces. That's what china means. That's not how it got into your jacket.
הנקודה שיש עליך פה. הנקודה זה לא איך הגיע אליך.
כן,
איך על הבגד בוץ. זה הנקודה.
כן.
איך הגיע זה לא משנה כרגע.
אבל הוא הגיע תחינה. כי מישהו שדורך עליו, הוא מחץ אותו לפי ההיגיון.
אז תתפוס
אוקיי.
אותו ותגידו שהוא עבר עבירה. אבל זה לא...
הוא גוי, הוא גוי.
Okay, so let's discuss a few things. First of all, you brought up the Taz. The Taz is an interesting chiddush. The Taz says that if you are removing just the leftover pieces, let's say before Shabbos, you already took off the dried mud. What do you have underneath the dried mud? The stain of the dried mud, the little pieces. So that is already broken up. It's just little particles inside. So that the Taz says you can do. You can do. Well, with whatever way he says here, with a nail or bibifnim, you understand? Whatever, however you want, as long as you follow the rules here. Are you allowed to clean it off? Is that what you're asking? Oh yeah, Trina applies. I thought you meant does Libun apply to your skin?
No, but if you're washing it, you just put it under the water to wash it.
I saw a svara. From Shlomo Zalman. I saw a svara from Shlomo Zalman that if you wash it off in water, it's mutter, because the particles they kind of just spread out in the water. They're never like
Doesn't matter if it's hard.
separate like pieces.
What if it's hard?
No, you can't crumble it off.
Right. So if it's hardened, how do you get it off? You just wash it.
You wash it with water.
But it's still
or-
gonna crumble.
Yeah, but in the water, Reb Shlomo Zalman says a chiddush because it's never going to be really visible. It's kind of just going to disintegrate. Now, there is another chiddush of the Mishnah Berurah, which you might want to use. And that is, he says that in a case of need, you could be makel and have a goy crumble it off for you from the jacket. Same thing would apply to your hands or whatever. Because basically, this is a shvus. Right, it's a malacha she'esach l'gufa. You don't need the pieces of mud or the earth or whatever it's going to become. And it's a shvus to shvus. Telling a guy to do it is a shvus. And it's mutter in a case of a tzar gadol, in a
That's
case
like
of great need.
The guy you talked about that he needed the jacket to go to Midcar, he wouldn't go. We talked about that last week.
Yeah,
That'd be a
exactly.
case of need.
Yeah, that'd be a case of need. Exactly.
But if you had another jacket, it's not a case of need.
But it would only be allowed if he's doing it in a way of a shvus. You understand? He wouldn't be allowed to use any liquid, which would be an Issa D'Oraisa, because that's not a shvus to shvus. That's just one
What if
shvus.
you had another garment and you just were concerned that the was going to bake and ruin your garment? Would that not be a case of need?
I
just wanna get it off
One more
there.
time. One more time. What's the question?
You don't need the garment, but you just want to get it off there so that the garment isn't soiled longer. Yeah, Shabbat.
It's not need. It's not need. That's finickiness. Okay, but Shvus to Shvus, let's just digress a little bit and talk about Shvus to Shvus, with your permission. So the question was asked yesterday. Can I ask it? Can I mention it? So a lawyer who has a case that is going to need some attention on Shabbos, where he's going to get an email on Shabbos, and when that email comes in, a phone call has to be made. Is that correct? No other malacha? An email and a phone call.
It's like a doctor, right?
So, question was, can he ask a non-Jewish worker of his to take care of that? When he sees the email come in, make the call.
Is it asking before Shabbos?
Ask him before Shabbos, and pay him in a way of by the job instead of by the hour. So that was the question. I said yesterday that there would seem to be room for leniency because a person who pays for the rights to collect a toll.
Right.
This is Allah and Shulchan Aruch. If you paid for the rights to collect the toll, and Shabbos, if you don't collect the toll, that's it. All that money is gone. You're not getting it back. So you can tell a goy to collect it for you as long as he's a kabbalah. That means he gets a percentage instead of being a worker. So the question was, but we know that you can't do that when it comes to dry cleaning. You can't give your stuff to the dry cleaners and say, I need it for tomorrow, unless they have time to do it before or after Shabbos. You can't tell them to do it on Shabbos, even if it's a kabbalah paying for the job. So yesterday I didn't really understand the difference. But I looked it up, and it's based on the concept of shvus to shvus that we're mentioning now, that you're allowed to have a goy do a malacha d'Rabbanan for you when it's a case of great need or great financial loss or whatever. So here, what's the guy doing already? I mean, he's collecting a toll. What malacha is there? There's no malacha. I mean, it's muktzah basically, right? So it's a. I'm sorry.
Writing a receipt.
That's if the guy wants it, not necessarily. I mean, maybe yes, maybe no. That's not. Let's put it this way: that was not part of the explicit job. If it was done, it wasn't part of the explicit job. So at least in Shulchan Aruch, it's not mentioned. So
Let's go back to the
one
toll.
second.
Yeah, go
So the point is the shvus to shvus. It's a double d'Rabbanan. And in that case, first of all, it's a financial loss. And second of all, the Alter Rebbe says an interesting thing, that if you don't collect it, the money that should be yours is going to remain in the hands of the goyim. It's a mitzvah that shouldn't happen. No, it's an interesting thing. It's not a regular financial loss is you're not going to make the money or you're going to lose money, but it's not that your money is going to be in the goyim's possession. That's like a tragedy. That's what he says. That's what he says. It's a mitzvah to save it from them. So therefore, he says you're allowed to do it. So, depending on the importance of this case and on the financial loss that would ensue if you couldn't do this, that would be the question. It would hinge on that.
Can you ask the goy directly then to do it?
If it is a shvus to shvus, double d'Rabbanan, which according to many poskim, email, phone, electricity, basically, is d'Rabbanan. So there's room to be lenient and say, and again, a case of great need or great financial loss. That's the room for leniency. Then you could say it.
You can ask them straight out.
Yeah. To do it. But you should still do it with kablanas and so on.
Right.
Paying them by the job.
Let me ask you something. What if you have a suffix? It's not in my case. Because I just thought of something, that there's a yid that works for the goy that may be answering their phone. Then you can't do it.
No.
Let's say you have a client and you're like, yeah, I know that this is the guy that will probably take the call, but he may have the yid,
right,
who's not a firm guy, take that call.
Right.
Not my case, but
that's a problem.
that's what I mean.
There's not a way to get around that one. You can't do it in a way that's going to cause the yid to do work. And also in that case, the client has to be a guy, right?
Yeah.
The client is a guy, yes. Okay, David says, I don't understand how there could be this leniency. How could he benefit from the goy? Because with a toll, you know you'll lose the money, but here it doesn't seem an absolute necessity to make these phone calls on Shabbos. And what the Rebbe said, though. Is it an absolute necessity? I don't know. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying if it is. If it's a great need, or if it's a great financial loss, then there's room to be lenient. That's all.
יש לנו מישהו שבדיוק נכנס.
מי זה, האוורד?
תשאל אותו.
לא יודע, זה בחור.
בבקשה.
הדלת סגורה. יש לו מפתח כנראה.
I don't understand the situation with the toll.
You bought the rights
You own
to
it.
that toll.
It's like you own the toll.
It's like in Florida, like the SunPass company, whoever that is, they take in the money. They bought it. They pay to make those highways, but they get the toll. So that's what you have. You have the right to collect the toll from a certain bridge, let's say. If you don't operate it on Shabbos, that money is gone. So you can have a guy do it as long as he gets a percentage of the profits. So he's not.
You're benefiting from the other percentage.
You are.
How are we allowed to do on Shabbos?
You mean as far as what? Schar Shabbos? Is that your question?
Yeah, sure.
That's an interesting question.
I thought the whole case with somebody who's not allowed to close on Shabbos, like a mall, where the stores are not allowed to close on Shabbos, they'll kick you out of the mall. So you have to give that whole entire day to the goy. You have to get a goy to be a partner.
If that's the
That's
whole
not
point.
because of Schar Shabbos. That's because of the work itself. That's not because of Schar
You're
Shabbos.
making money on Shabbos if you don't get that goy to be a partner.
Yeah, that's a secondary point. The main point is he's working for you. He's working for you. That's the main point.
The goy's working for you?
Yeah. If he's not a partner and he's just working for
Your
you,
money.
that's the main
You're
point,
making
that he's actually working for you. In addition to that, when you arrange the partnership, it has to be done in a way that there is no Schar Shabbos, but that's a secondary thing. But your question is, why is this not Schar Shabbos? Not sure.
You're not making money off of it. You're not making a profit. It's almost like a
No,
headset.
you are making a profit. You are making a profit.
The only thing you're doing is making a profit.
But you said but the bigger thing was to avoid a financial loss.
You are making a profit. I don't know. I mean, there is a concept of Havlah, that when you get Schar Shabbos in a pack with other monies, that it's not us. So maybe that's the heter. Maybe when the goy delivers it to you, he delivers it from Friday afternoon till Sunday morning, and it includes a bunch of Shabbos money, non-Shabbos money. He doesn't specify, and really,
You're hiring the goy, let's say you probably have to hire the goy from before till after Shabbos.
right, which is what they do in all the Jewish hotels, for example, the Frum hotels. How do they make money from Shabbos? Because Shabbos includes, let's say, an hour or two before and an hour or two after. Same thing with the rental cars. All these things, they're not only Shabbos.
If you make them a partner,
I don't like that heter. I don't like that heter.
Well,
I don't like that
what
heter.
hector? What was that?
Well, they get paid.
I don't know. I know they get paid, but I don't like the heter
What's that?
that you pay the Balkoyer for his preparation, because it's actually not true, because they couldn't care less if you prepare or not. As long as you know it. If you're born knowing it, that's fine. And if you're prepared for 10 hours and you don't know it, they're not happy.
What are you?
They're not paying you for preparation.
Wow.
I think the heter, to have a good heter, is to lane on Monday and Thursday as well. And that way you have
That's
your
a
regular-
practical heter.
Yeah, because then you're
It's just part of your regular.
then you're not getting paid for Shabbos alone.
Right.
Or at least, okay, that's not so practical. I mean,
Where you get, I saw it's written, I saw, well, something like once.
no, it's Nabilas Esther, but that's only once a year. Chalamoyed, I'm saying if you lane sometimes during the week, even once, and you get paid as a package, but that doesn't work if you get paid every month. What do you say?
I saw once that they should specifically ask them to do something before or after Shabbos.
Like what?
Like, help with the kids after Shabbos,
Yeah.
or prepare the shul for Shabbos.
Yeah,
That's a part of the job.
yeah.
By the way, speaking of lawyers, is a lawyer allowed to go to court or work on Shabbos to get a Jew out of custody?
It's a life and death.
I mean, in the UK or the US, it's not necessarily life or death.
In ISIS country, it's life or death.
Yeah.
Um,
No, but it could be the court hearing. Is there ever a court hearing on Saturdays?
I mean, going to court,
Emergency hearing.
going to court in and of itself is not any malacha. If the court is in your tchum, and all you have to do is make an oral argument, it's actually not a malacha. And that being
No, I heard that a lawyer is allowed to travel in a car in order, if someone's been arrested, in order to get someone out of custody.
You should try and have a go.
It could be. I mean, it kind of depends on the situation. If it's a jail that has dangerous people in it, I can understand that. The Rebbe said the proper way to observe Shabbos is to close your business by Chatzos Friday afternoon to prepare for Shabbos. He told this to someone who came into him from Bracha or Panasa, and the Rebbe told him to observe Shabbos. And when he said that he does, that's what the Rebbe told him. It's in the book, There Was Advice. It's a good thing, definitely. We're going to learn, I don't know if we will learn, but it is in Shulchan Aruch to close early on Friday. Yes.
It's a
No, it's like an extra thing. Sorry?
The situation where a Yid has a business and he stays open on Shabbos or whatever reason.
For whatever reason, that doesn't sound very good. Go ahead.
Yeah, this
Sometimes they stay open because if you don't, you'll have parnasa after. You have customers that rely on you. And
I mean, the way to do it is to have a non-Jewish partner, and that's the way to do it.
so can you then make a goy your partner for the times when you can't work? And
There's a way to do it. There's a whole Simon Shulchan Aruch about how to do it.
Is that
Okay.
the stuff that we would be doing if you extend the time?
Maybe.
Yeah,
It's a little bit-
we gotta do this extension.
It's a little bit complicated, but maybe.
Is a Jew allowed to be a lawyer for a Jew who did not get a allowance from Beis Din to go to court?
I don't know. It's a difficult question. I don't know.
It's pretty practical.
Yes. Okay, let's go back here. So the Mishnah Berurah is not happy with this Taz. Again, the Taz says that you could scrape off either with a knife or your nail or by rubbing it. I'm sorry, rubbing it from the inside. If there's leftover mud. And by the way, I forgot to say this whole thing about scraping dry is only a problem with mud. If it's foodstuffs that was once ground, then you could scrape it off because ain't tchina achar tchim. But coming back to this Taz. So the Mishnah Berurah says, I mean, why is this any less than shaking the dust off a garment? I mean, the dust is embedded a little bit in the garment, and Rashi says that that's considered kibbutz, to shake it off. And the way the Mishnah Berurah explains that whole discussion, if you remember, is that the main problem is that it bothers you. And the fact that it's black or new is just to kind of tell if it bothers you or not, right? Which not everybody agrees with. He says, the Alter Rebbe says clearly that it has to be all of those, black and new and bothers you. If it's missing one of those ingredients, it's not a problem. But the Mishnah Berurah doesn't hold that. The Mishnah Berurah says the main thing is that it bothers you. And therefore, even if it's new, even if it's old or it's not black, if it does bother you, then you can't do it. So the problem is, over here, I mean, if it bothers you, which presumably it does, people generally don't like mud on their clothing, dried mud. So what's the heter to scrape it off? Now, so you'll say, well, what's the question on the Shulchan Aruch? Why is he bothered by the Taz? So he says, in the case of the Shulchan Aruch, where you're going to scrape it off and it's going to leave something behind, so therefore it's not considered proper cleaning, and that's why, even if it bothers you, it's okay, because you're not cleaning it properly, because it's still leaving a remnant behind. But in the case that you are successfully taking everything off, like the Taz is describing, you're going to scrape and scrape and scrape till you get everything off. Well, you are cleaning it, and it bothers you. So why should it be allowed more than shaking off a garment?
Checking the dust, you're not gonna leave anything behind. behind him, so it's actually not going to be joining complete.
So that's the question. Absolutely, that's the question. If you're not going to be able to clean it properly, then the Mishnah Berurah agrees that you're allowed to do it. It's actually the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says you're allowed to scrape off mud, whatever. But if you are going to be able to take off those particles by scraping it and actually clean it, then he has a problem with it. Because it's cleaning a garment in a way that is a complete cleaning, and it bothers you, and therefore he says that you should not be allowed to. So according to the Mishnah Berurah, the only way you're allowed to do this sif is if it leaves something behind. If it cleans it completely, it's not allowed. Now,
you don't remember if you're going to leave something behind or not.
I'm saying,
You don't know until you're going to do it.
no, if you're peeling off the top, underneath there's going to be junk. But if you're scraping it after that, like the Taz says, that's when you're...
Yeah, but let's say if you is allowed it to even touch by nothing, remove it all. And the top and not, everything didn't remove. It's completely clean now. So now you cannot use it. You didn't know what's going to happen.
No good.
Yeah, but what's
You shouldn't have done it. Is it going to be Asa B'Diavad?
But
No.
you don't know. It's not like an experience like if I'm going to do it, it's going to be completely. Just
Yeah.
to remove the top layer.
It's not going to be Asa B'Diavad for another reason. I'll tell you why. Very simple. It's not going to be Asa B'Diavad because the whole thing about shaking off dust is only Rashi's opinion, if you remember. Right? Rabbeinu Tam, Rabbeinu Chananel, Rambam, they all have different pshatim in that Gemara. And according to them, it's not a malacha to clean without liquid. You know what I'm saying? So it's all according to Rashi. So it's not going to be Asa B'Diavad. But yeah, you shouldn't do it according to Mishnah Berurah unless it appears like there's going to be something left. So don't do it. Start doing it.
But you want to be nice for Shabbos.
Start doing
It's
it.
not Shabbos day.
Start doing it and see how much is coming off. Peek underneath and see if it's leaving something or not. But again, this is all according to the Mishnah Berurah. According to the Alter Rebbe,
Which is what the number?
the Alter Rebbe in Seif, Shkoyach. The Alter Rebbe is in Seif Yudalad, yeah.
No, but it's
Alter Rebbe is in Seif Yudalad, but the point is, he doesn't spell it out in Seif Yudalad, but he already spelled it out in the beginning of the
He
Siman.
doesn't make it up on the garment.
No, I know. But at the beginning of the Siman, he already said that the whole issue about shaking dust off a garment only applies if it's new and it's black and it bothers you.
So dust or dirt?
I'm saying the Mishnah Berurah's chiddush here, the Rebbe is dust, but the Mishnah Berurah's chiddush here is based on that, where we see that if it bothers you, you can't remove it. So the same thing here, if you're going to remove it completely and it bothers you, which it does here, obviously, because everybody's bothered by dirt, by mud, so that's his basis for the asrani. 1 second, but now the Rebbe, when it comes to dust, is only machmer if it's new and black and it bothers you. So even if we apply those rules over here, according to the Alter Rebbe, it's only going to be a problem if it's new and black. Obviously, it bothers you, like the Mishnah Berurah says, everybody's bothered by mud. But I'm saying it would only be a problem if it's new and black. So that's what it is.
Did we ever explain why black is a thing?
Black is a thing because dust is more apparent on black, and you could argue the same.
But that's only one opinion that dust matters. What about Rambam and Tosfos, where it's water or bits of cloth?
According to Tosfos, it's also true about drops of dew, that it's more clearly visible against a black surface. According to the Rambam, actually, I've never figured it out, honestly. What's the difference if it's black or other colors? Unless I don't know, maybe even
colors were just much more distinctive maybe back in those days. Like you didn't have 20 shades of blue in one of them.
I understand, but the Rambam says that it's talking about pieces of like little junk that got woven into the garment and you're removing it before you start wearing it, you don't want that junk mixed in. So why would that make a difference if it's black or white? I mean, nobody wants that
For any garment.
for any garment. Actually, no, 1 second. I remember now. I think that's
Isn't black maybe a chashuv
Well,
garment?
it's about whitening. So I figured that maybe from black, the only thing you could ever do is go whiter.
no. Whitening is the av. Whitening is the av, but the tulda is kibbutz. The tulda of libun, which is whitening, is kibbutz, which is washing, and it applies definitely to all colored garments. There's no question that, for example, with liquid, it's a nissa d'oraisa, even if it's a colored garment, even though you're not making it white.
I just didn't understand black.
Just give me 1 second. I think I have it. No, I'm not seeing it here. I'm not seeing it here. But in the Rambam, he says he does say, it's actually going back to the beginning of the Simon, but why according to the Rambam, who says that it's talking about the leftover stuff in the garment, removing that stuff, why does it make a difference if it's black or white? Let's just look up the Rambam because I think I do have the answer. Do we have a minion? What's the story?
We need one more.
Uh,
The neighbor, he
We prayed, I'm sure.
He's not coming?
הוא לא שם, אין אף אחד שם.
And don't we have 10 here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but-
6, 5.
Five,
prayed,
no, five, no,
prayed.
right.
yeah, no, my friend prayed, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, some.
Where's Rafael? He usually has a
Yeah,
few
but
guys.
some say that would peel off the whole.
אז הוא עזב ישר, אני חושב שחלק עכשיו.
Okay, 1 second. I have the answer for you. Yossi, you here?
Yep.
So this is in the Alter Rebbe. Sorry, this is in the Rambam, Perkir Halacha Yud Ches of Hilchos Shabbos, where he's talking about this thing about removing threads, straw splinters, wood from a garment by hand, splinters that are found in garments. All of this he doesn't say applies only to black. But then he says a person who shakes at a new black garment to make it attractive and remove any remnants of white wool adhering to it, as is a tailor's practice, is liable to bring a sin offering. So basically what happens is when you are weaving the black garment, the little particles of white wool that kind of hang around in your weaving factory kind of float onto it. And then after you're done, you shake it off and then it's ready for wearing. When you make colored garments, you know what I mean, other colors or certainly white garments, those little particles are not really visible and therefore you don't care to shake them off. And even if you do, it's not significant. See what I'm saying? So in the case of removing threads, straws, splinters, there he does not differentiate between black and other garments. It's specifically this particular thing of remnants of white wool. That's what the Ram differentiates, and that's how he would understand the Gemara also, to be talking about that case.
But everything else you're not allowed to do anyway.
Exactly.
This odd thing only applies to black.
Exactly.
So where's Rambam's Chiddush?
I'm sorry?
Where's the Chiddush in this? If you're not allowed to remove thread generally on any garment, what's so important about these small white pieces?
No, these were not pieces that would generally be a problem, except that they are visible against the black background. They just.
Oh, okay, right. So little tiny tufts are not a problem otherwise.
Almost like lint. It's not a serious thing that really got stuck in there, which you would want to remove from any kind of garment, but it's just something very, very light. It seems to be something that was known. You know what I mean?
What would the opposite?
That sort of thing.
When you have
All right.
there's something dark in the wall, you want to shake it off too.
Yeah, could be, but it just could be that this sort of thing was the sort of thing that happened in those days in these factories where the common thread was white, and it might float onto the black, but maybe it could be the other way too. I don't know.
And we can never use a lint brush or anything like that.
No, not a specific brush made for that. Okay.
So I could use a tea towel, for example, but not a brush.
Correct. All right. Let us learn the Alter Rebbe.
Are they done trying to get someone for 10?
No.
Someone that didn't daven yet. We have a minion. We need someone that didn't daven yet.
10.
We'll stop. If they want to come now, we'll break for them. But 10 is preferred. Sorry? That's the passion.
No, I'm asking. I don't mind.
I don't know. I don't know if it works.
Well,
It's an interesting question. Can you daven at Tfilas Nadava to be Mashlam minion?
I say no.
You say no? You know it?
No, I don't. But I'm taking a nice educated guess.
Yeah, probably not.
From my stupidity.
Probably not, but I'm not sure. Okay. Rabbi Isai, let's go. Yud Dalid. Tit Shal Ragloi. Oyal Menoloi. Oh, sorry, we did that already.
Right or left?
You know, we didn't learn this yet. Tes Vav.
We did. You know, we did yesterday.
Yud Dalid we did, but Tes Vav we didn't do.
No.
That's right.
Okay, let's do Tes Vav. The Alter Rebbe, before he talks about any malacha that he's introducing for the first time, he gives us a little introduction about it. So here's the introduction about scraping leather, which is relevant because we just spoke in Yud Daled about scraping the mud off your feet. Exactly. And yesterday we spoke about not rubbing the mud off of your shoes, which is, by the way, something that according to Shlomo Zalman does not apply today. Because nowadays nobody uses mud to put in between bricks. In those days, they had primitive building methods. So mud is more or less the concrete of those days. So he says that's when it looks like you're adding. But nowadays, mud on a brick wall does not look like an addition to the wall. It looks like mud on the wall.
But on the ground?
On the ground, yeah. Talking about not the concrete ground, on the grass. You know what I mean? That would still be an issue according to those that hold it.
So concrete ground would be okay.
Yeah, concrete ground is for sure okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Alter says, a person who smoothens skin, a person who scrapes the wool or the hair off of skin until it's smooth is chayev. Excuse me, this is one of the Avis Malachas. They used to do this in the Mishkan with the skins of the tachash, whatever animal that was, as well as the Elim Adamim, the rams that had dyed red skin. So before they use them, they process it, and what part of the processing it is to smoothen it and make it smooth.
This is
So
where you
that
take
is-
sand and you rub it on it?
I'm sorry?
Is this where you take sand and rub it over it?
Is that how they smooth the leather? I don't know.
I had in my mind that happened. Or maybe not.
Maybe. I don't know.
This was a unicorn and that stuff.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. a narwhal, maybe. Arya Kaplan suggests maybe it was
A narwhal from the sea.
an animal with one horn. So that fits the picture.
And it's not a rhinoceros.
I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, whatever it was, this is how they processed it. So, the fika therefore in the garden sandal a minal. You cannot scrape a sandal or a shoe, bein chadash bein yashan, whether it's old or new. Afilu begav hasak, and even with the back of a knife. And so is certainly not with the sharp side of the knife, maybe tziparin, or with a nail, because you're going to be scraping some of the skin off. Right, and that is mamachik. Chiddush. You have mud on your shoe, leather shoe. You want to scrape it off. You cannot use a sharp object because that is going to be scraping the leather, and it's like going to take off a very thin layer of the leather, and that's going to be the layer underneath it. It's going to be smoother than the layer on top. That's called smoothing.
Why we don't say this is expensive shoes? He will not damage the shoes.
You mean do it gently? Is that your question?
Is this
Do it gently?
It's $1,000 shoes? He will not damage it.
Well, the point is that you want your $1,000 shoes to look nice, and you don't want mud on your $1,000 shoes.
And you clean it really gentle without touching the shoes.
Maybe not. The heel, for example, the bottom.
And the bottom you took.
Yeah, that's leather too. I'm saying if it is leather.
No, if the bottom he can go and clean it like this, or no?
On a concrete, yeah, but not on a sharp, not on a sharp surface.
On the grass, no?
On the grass, we said is a machlekes because maybe you'll fill a hole.
Okay.
But
on the rug,
on a rug,
they put it
not
in.
my rug,
I'm asking
somebody else's rug.
No, they put them before you go.
Oh, you mean a mat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
So it's okay. Why you need to do it with a knife if it doesn't have a...
Well, he's going to discuss now what they used to do.
He's talking about the bottom, he's talking about
No, it could be the bottom too. What's the difference? If the bottom is made of leather, the same issue.
the top. You mentioned that you cannot take with the knife, with the back of the knife, because it's metal.
I think so. Anything that's not sharp.
Yeah, but you also
If it's not sharp. If it's not sharp, he says, for example, the next sif, that you can do it with,
the scrapers are made from wood. You can use it.
actually he doesn't say it, maybe Mishnah Berurah says it. Somebody says you can use a piece of pottery. Pottery, cheres. Cheres, so anything that's not so sharp.
What do you got, Karen?
So not metal.
In the olden days, they used to have cheres.
So the emphasis by the metal. Not box, that's it.
You're going, Rabbi,
It doesn't have to be metal, he says
But then it's
siparim.
the back of the knife, but it's not sharp. So it's not about being sharp, but
The
being
back of the knife is a little bit sharp. A little bit sharp.
Half it is. Compared to Cheres, Cheres can cut you. So what's the catch?
Rabbi,
I mean, it's not only metal, because you see, he says a tziparin, a nail. What do you say? No, let me see Mishnah Berurah for a second. No, Mishnah Berurah.
you work in the street, you can take a piece of wood or a piece of rock.
Rock is muktzah, and wood maybe muktzah, maybe not, depending on what it is.
So
One
this is
second.
what it is, what it's- I can take my neighbor's shoes. better to make a synagogue in the house and that's it. You don't go outside, quiet, bring a minion, to you, and that's it. On the roof. My backyard. I mean, after, if it's raining, זה גשם, זה לא יכול להיות בחוצה. צריך בתוך הבית.
מה זה?
תפילה. יכול להיות בתקופה הזאת גשמים, הרבה גשמים.
ישנה ברכה.
כן. שמתי לב מתי הופכים או למניין בבוקר, אין גשם, זה נכנס לבית כנסת, התחיל להרביץ גשמים, עד שעה
You know what? Maybe I got it wrong. Because he brings down the cheres before by titlach. And he says that titlach, you don't have to scrape so hard. You can do it gently and get it off. It's the tit yavish, you have to scrape it harder.
Hello? Is it just me or?
No, yeah, I'm here also. This is Dan.
Oh.
I don't know.
I don't hear anything either.
Maybe let me send him a text, say that we.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, thanks.
Did you guys have a problem with why adding water to the mud would make it better on Shabbos? Seems like it's worse.
Oh, you mean to make it loosen it up?
Yeah, isn't that clear like washing?
Yeah, I don't think you can add water. I mean, maybe if you could add water to the mud, but not the clothes. But even so, that's a different problem.
I thought, he didn't say if you have dry mud on the clothes and you want to get it off, you can put some water on it.
Did he say that?
I thought so. No?
I think that's, I don't think so, but maybe he did.
Yeah, that would seem like it's like
It would seem either if the water gets on the clothes, it's washing, and even if the water only gets on the mud, you're not allowed to wet sand to make mud. I don't think. Wet dirt to make mud. But maybe he might have said that.
I don't know. It doesn't seem right to me. So I would doubt it. But
Yeah, okay, so maybe I got it wrong.
let's ask him once we get him back. No. Looks like
Maybe
he
it's a
left the
good thing
call.
that he's.
Huh?
Yeah, so maybe he'll be rejoining.
Yeah.
I think we need to drop off this call and go to the new one that he's started.
All right. See you.